Hi. Good morning, Labrit. We're talking nightlife, so this is the morning of the nightlife. It's like 7:30, so now nightlife. Actually, you were standing up now. We get our coffee, and then we start to get out, right? Then the life starts, the real life. I'm really happy to see quite a few places like taken. So we are really like quite a few persons. Thank you for that, because it's pretty much the last stage that we have here in this venue, in this 2024 Lampa, and it's actually something very, very beautiful that we are right in front of the nightlife starting, talking about the nightlife of the future, or the nightlife in general. I mean, we had a lot of subjects during last 2 days on this stage, and now we are like kind of concluding. I'm shortly introducing myself. My name is Jonas Büchel. I'm moderating here in English tonight, and we probably will talk English, although when you have Latvian answers, questions, comments, please feel free to talk any language. I mean, any language, no. I do understand Latvian. I do speak also a bit Latvian, but not enough to moderate. I do get very well along with German, believe me. We can do English, but please don't come with any other language, then I'm like surrendering. Maybe the girls here have more languages at hand, I don't. Generally, the night today is the night that means we want to talk about something that is part of us, and it's part of a big 24-hour rhythm that we once defined in something like time management as to be like a day. And some person at one moment, at one time said, the night is where we are supposed to sleep. It's a big question mark. Do we have to do that? Some of us like to go to bed with the birds. I know at least one person here who does like to do that and like to stand up again with the birds. But there are people like myself, even with like say a bit of advanced age, I still can't get in the bed. I don't like that. I like to stay wake up for whatever reason. Whatever I do. I even work in the night because it's part of my life. It's one part of everything. As we just already talked, nightlife is much more than just the beer and the club and the event. It's much, much more. The nightlife is also to have a night stroll through the city. Imagine in a warm summer night like today, you stroll along Daugava in Riga, and you just like, or here in Gauja, and you just enjoy the night and the atmosphere in the night, which is so different, so totally different than that what you have in the day, with all the sun, which is anyway dangerous for our skin. So let's skip that. It's usually better to be without that. My name is Jonas, I said that already. I'm actually a social and cultural planner. I'm doing things like this, what I'm doing here today, for the last 30 years. And I'm quite heavily, unexpectedly, for the last 4 years, suddenly in a very, very massive teaching situation at various universities in Riga, or faculties, which was not planned in my life, believe me, not at all. I'm everything but the academic person. But suddenly I'm in the middle of everything. And I have 5 persons with me here. No, 4 persons. They were planned to be 5. But the 5th person is too busy downstairs. We actually invited also Christine, who is also announced in the program, from Mahler downstairs. I mean, your drinks are, I guess, from Mahler. So, but Christine is too busy because these are the 2 days in the year for Mala which are really important. So I guess we give her the right to be downstairs. But we have 4 beautiful persons next to us. And first of all, I would like you 4 to introduce yourself. Jeanette.
Hi, Latvian English?
However you want.
Okay, so I've been working in creative industries for 20 years. Now I'm working at the Danish Cultural Institute, and I've been researching experiences within creative industries. And in this conversation, I think I was more like a consumer of nightlife, maybe not an expert, but still I would like to participate with some academic background here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nina.
Hello, my name is Nina. I'm a creative person, being a DJ for almost 15 years, also organizing electronic music events, also producing music and doing live sets with the modelers, and also being into visual arts a lot. So I have been in this nightlife scene for quite a while, and I think I could like be more of an inside view or viewpoint in this conversation.
Could it be that we introduce you next time as the female version of Brian Eno? I mean, it sounds a bit like.
Yeah, it could be very, very flattering. It would be, but yeah, maybe.
I mean, I listened to your music tracks and they were beautiful. So.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aldis.
Aha, that's better. Yeah, my name is Aldis, and normally I work at the Ministry of Culture, not during nights, from 8 to 5. But yeah, and I was surprised to get an invitation because nightlife is not necessarily something that the Ministry of Culture is dealing with. But I was convinced that I should definitely come here, and so I'm in for surprise. So I have no idea what to expect and what I will be able to contribute to the discussion, but I will try.
I mean, I also don't know what to expect. This is number 1. Number 2, I'm sure you will give a real decent impact, believe me. And number 3, we will see. Yes. Martin.
Well, one thing I'm sure of is that my name is Martin. Yeah, that's the thing that everyone can agree on. But for many years I've been a culture and city researcher, but in recent years I'm also a planner and working as a strategist in the city development department in Riga. And for the last couple of years I've been dedicating some time when researching night culture or just culture in Riga as such, or identity of culture as such, and also now we are working towards a preliminary research on evening and night time planning, not nightlife planning. Nightlife is a very narrow thing of evening and night time. And so that's why I'm probably here, because I have some really cool facts. I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Martin.
And I guess also I'm like Jeanette, I'm like once I was a heavy user, no, consumer. Consumer culture, yeah.
So I mean, I am in my basic education a social worker, but we please do not talk now about any addiction problem unless that is important for the nighttime, nightlife. I mean, let's shortly make some idea also, or like set the idea up how I think we want to run this show here, which is first of all talking about some issues, but then also like immediately as soon as possible open up to you, so that you can come in with any kind of questions and comments. I mean, I know that there are various people here in the audience who have really something to say about this. So I would like you four, first of all, to reflect seriously on, and it sounds a little bit really like super stupid, I know that, but please reflect on something. I mean, I'm wearing with a reason this fancy T-shirt here. I would very much love that you reflect on what do you imagine about Riga's nightlife, nighttime, within somewhere the next 5 to 10 years. What is it like?
I mean, looking into the future and seeing how Riga is
Yes.
in. Okay. I'm not going to start now.
I think I would very much love the production side to start. Nina?
Well, I'm quite an optimist at some point, so I think in the next 5 or 10 years, I would love to see Riga booming up with a lot of events and a lot of art and music related events. And as I see it also, not only from the generation change, possibly, that mostly young people are into electronic music, they want to do electronic music, make it, and I think it's also very quite important that could resonate in the future as well, because if I don't like to make a comparisons, but for example, if we see the European cities, like bigger ones, still it's a part of a culture. Maybe it's not like the previous one, it's like something new, more contemporary, but it is a part of creativeness as well, not only in the form of dancing or producing music or producing art, but I would love to see it definitely in a positive way, but at the same time, I'm not quite sure if it's really like going that way, because sometimes it's really hard to make some events, and sometimes there are no people who come to events, and sometimes there's some kind of resonance that why do we need this? It's too loud, like we need to sleep. But at the same point, the city is the place where everything happens, and I think it's very important to be loud in a city, not like too loud, not to disturb people, but also I think it's that there is some kind of like a flow in between where you can find this compromise on both of these things, that you don't disturb, for example, inhabitants in Riga city, don't disturb their sleep or similar things that could be like an issue. But yeah, if you ask me, I think I would love to see city every day doing something. It's not necessarily at night, but definitely to be more creative and to do more events. Because from my side, as also event organizer, sometimes I see that there are not so people coming over. Of course, the situation, the economical situation changes a lot, because people start to like save expenses, like think about money more, where to spend it. Of course, we all of us want to go outside somewhere to the countryside. It's not also only about the nightlife and only about the creativeness, but I would love to see it. Yeah, definitely growing up and being more fulfilled in various ways.
What does mean the fulfilled? Who is fulfilled? The nighttime or the creativity?
I think it's all points. Yeah, it's like more fulfillment of the artworks, and also more of a creative being, and also fulfillment of the people who come to the events, and also fulfillment for those who are in the city who want to sleep, for example. If we talk about the nightlife, but it's not necessarily about during the nighttime. It can, I think, yeah, it could be also about the evening. It's not only about just the clubs or something like that. Because I see it also. I have heard somewhere that there's actually the situation that people are not coming to festivals or something like that. It's not only in our country. It's like all around.
It is, yes.
It's something is changing in our consciousness, or like, as I said, expenses. Not expenses, but like, yeah, where you tērēt. It's like spending your money.
I think this is. I haven't heard anything yet about how much attendance has been like here, for example, in Lampa this year. I arrived only today due to private issues we have had yesterday, but I'm a bit certain that it's maybe stagnation or even a bit less participation, I have the feeling. I'm not sure. So let's see. I mean, this whole festival issue, yes, I hear similar reports from Finland, from Germany very much actually. And I think it is not only a cost issue, certainly.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of things happening in the world.
Something is changing.
Yeah.
But like
He
we
wants to
agreed at the very beginning that we are talking about nightlife as a cultural entity and also as just one part of what happens at evenings and nights. And you also need to keep in mind that some people come to Lampa less than in other years doesn't mean that they don't have other things and duties to do in evenings and nights. There may be other things going on. There are also a lot of people that work during evenings and nights and not always in cafes and restaurants. They're doing many other things and they are studying. So there are many different reasons now why people are staying up in evenings and nights and why probably they don't attend a lot of events. And maybe they're just getting older and tired of that. Just a little reminder that less people in events doesn't mean that there's no evening and nightlife. Maybe it's just changing to some other place.
I think that point that you make is even more important than that. It goes far deeper. It is also the quantity of, I shortly go inside that because it's very important. It's a subject that we are talking a lot about. It's like how to measure impact. And when we try to measure impact, then it's always for sure also this how many attendance you have had, and this impact of like how many tickets have been sold. While it doesn't say anything immediately about the quality of the event, it doesn't say anything immediately about the whole cultural rich enrichment that has been happening with this. So we need to be very careful with this, and thanks for that comment, because it is far more spreading out with more important issues than that.
There's this one thing that you asked about the future, and
yeah, please.
I'd like all of you just to go back 2-3 years ago, say it's 2021, and see where you were and where the country was, where the cultural life, where the nightlife was. And of course, at that time, if you asked me this question, I thought that we are kind of fucked. But we are not anymore. And also because we did this preliminary study, and we are doing actually some things I can't talk about now yet, but we are doing some things regarding finding balance between nightlife and nighttime peace, finding balance between day and night, finding balance between darkness and lightness. So in 10 years, the policy of evening and nighttime in Riga can actually be very fruitful to all interested and involved parties. There are some things I can't tell because me as a city department official, I can only talk about things we have officially agreed, but we're actually going towards some things that in 10 years can make huge impact to evening and nighttime culture as such, and defining the culture and protecting it, but also protecting people's peace and well-being.
So I translated like
so
this.
That is the thing. So it's not great. We all remember pre-COVID 2019. It was interesting to go out and go to other places. But now I think it's returning. But there are other things you can do in evenings and in nights, and we also try to work towards that.
Yeah.
But about that a bit later.
I need to translate anyway a little bit. So when I translate that, what you just said, that it means there is some kind of strategy coming up. There is some kind of issue, like some paper, some document, something that we all who are connected to Riga in one or the other way, for sure we are sitting in Cesis here, and that we talk about the Riga tonight. Please, it is nothing. I mean, I myself, I'm not living in Riga, and please don't take the city, the big city, as for granted. For sure, there is night and day also here. And there's night and day somewhere in deep Lauke, wherever, yeah? So
I'd like to find out from Uldis about the deep Lauke thing. I just talked about Riga, but he's like the country guy.
Wait. We are getting to the country guy, but still I need to, I'm actually the country guy, but we need to think about one point, what you are telling us. So we need to wait for a commission in the city council to decide upon that, or the politicians are like to decide upon that?
No, the answer is pretty simple. We all know that there are night mayors around many cities. This is something we want, and actually we are probably going to introduce in Riga.
In Riga?
But it's not going to be just a guy who's like, let's celebrate nightlife. It's going to be a political position, it's going to be a more practical position, it's going to be more like a coordinator between all the interested parties. That hasn't happened yet. And I totally agree with those who fight for peace at night, because it is balanced. Like you said, in cities it should be loud. No, it should be in balance, because you will be at one point where you want to sleep and you hate those people who party. And then the opposite, you want to party and you hate those people who sleep. So we try to find a coordinator or method of a coordinator who can facilitate conversation and find solutions, who can mitigate some effects, and who can also just regulate both parties. And we are on a track. We have actually some set of goals we want to reach, and probably next year we're all going to be positively surprised that there is an actual policy dedicated to evening and nighttime planning and management in Riga.
Okay.
That might not be affecting Lauke though, but we have.
Okay.
But it might be affecting everyone, like I said, because a lot of people also, I think there are some people who live in Cēsis that might go to Riga and work at night, or the opposite.
Yes.
They logistics is also a thing that a lot of people do at night, and it's just that we go party doesn't mean that a lot of people don't.
No, you asked so much Uldis already, then let's give Uldis the floor.
Actually, yeah, as a side note, I was, when all this fuss came up about grazing counts, I was thinking, well, it's all good, but what about those people working night shifts? So they are probably, their sleep is not very helped by all the fuss and all the sound which is going on at daytime. So there is always at least two perspectives to look at every issue. But well, joking aside, well, to answer your question on personal level would be just impossible, because as a middle-class man, I haven't the slightest idea what the nightlife in Riga or other cities are at this point.
Okay.
I just have no idea. But
it's okay.
I'm old. Sorry, I'm old. No, I'm not crying. So every age has its beauty. It's good.
I'm sorry. I'm older. Believe me. So just keep going.
But looking from a professional level, the cultural policy is on a quite philosophical level. Actually, is built on a concept that culture is part of human rights. So every person, regardless where he lives and what kind of culture actually he consumes, has a right to contribute to get and also to participate in a way he really likes and enjoys. So from this point of view, I certainly hope that in the next 5-10 years also the night culture will be vibrant and thriving, because there are people who need this type of culture. It's their lifestyle, and it's just, it's not right to say, no, that's not the way you should live. You should do something different. So it should be a human right actually to participate in night culture if that's what you're up to. But another angle, as a parent, also, I'm thinking that my daughters will be in 5 years, will be about the age when they enter, when they might want to participate in night culture. So I think it's also quite paramount that it's a safe environment. But that's, I think, just obvious.
But that's very interesting, because my children have a couple of time ago entered this nightlife, and also the very insecure and unsafe places. Still, they are kind of safe. But
Well, SAFE has many,
Martin.
I think.
Just one little tiny thing.
you know that you are very little always.
Yeah. No, I'm
So-
not always too little. Yeah.
Yes,
But
yes.
the fact is, you were talking about night culture, and I just wanted to remind all of you about night markets.
Yeah, we talked about
It is a culture,
Yeah.
and I think in 10 years, night markets is going to be a very strong part of culture, not just sort of a subjective or little like marginal culture of Riga. So I really hope that in 10 years we all going to have more night markets.
We will talk about Vice Mysticus later. Okay. Janette. Paldies, thanks, Uldis. Although I missed the Lauki, I mean, where was the rurality now? But no, I'm totally with you. So, I mean, probably a similar perspective, yeah. Janette, maybe now there is a point that you introduced yourself as the observer or as the user or the consumer. Thank you. So, from that perspective, when you look on the 5 and 10 or 15 years,
I think the first thing is who is going to consume the nightlife and how many people are there. And the first thing is that I think the society is aging. This is one thing. And second, that people are tending to move away from Riga, that they go to suburbs. And then there is a question, what do they do in their nightlife? Do they have nightlife at all? And also, what's the age of people who are participating in a nightlife? Because, of course, it's for young people. Everyone knows that when we are young, we consume it more. But what happens later when we start to work, when we have kids, when we grow up? And I think this is the time when we have money, finally. And there should be also audience which is older. And I think also this is the number of consumers who are going to participate in the nightlife, and why there is such an assumption that people after 30 don't do it.
after 30,
Or 40.
after 40,
Well, there's a question, because it's always thought that it's for young people, but why is it so?
that's actually a very good question. And I mean, referring to that, what Uldis just said, I mean, then we have the question about the human rights very much also, no? And the balanced approach that Martin is talking about. I wanted to come back to what you said, Nina, earlier. You have had a statement about this. For sure, it felt very much like Uldis, you just mentioned it, Grisian Count's discussion in general, yeah. But I remember very, very much this discussion happening. When I left Berlin, 25 years ago I left Berlin, 23 years ago. And back then was the first discussion coming already in Prenzlauer Berg exactly about that. And then there was a citizen initiative which was going out and reaching out and saying, we haven't had a nightmare yet, all of these sophisticated things that nowadays are existing were not then place. It was very easy forward, boom, 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 loud and heavy. Good. And then the citizen initiative reached out and said, hey guys, you complain it's getting too loud. Okay, but you moved here because it is loud. So where is the balance? How should we deal now with this? Now, once you're in, once you have settled, once you have your babies, you suddenly can't hear sound anymore? What the heck? Then you shouldn't have come here. That's what they said. And a whole struggle came out of that. The struggle actually finished really, you talked about balance, finished really with the idea of, okay, the city council of Berlin, we don't have a city council, we have a senate. The senate, the urban development senate, decided back then that you really and seriously have areas which have 24 hours party. And you have to accept it. Like in Latvian easy word, vis, that's it. Further, no discussion. Very interesting concept. Why? Because earlier there was this guy, this mayor, who would probably very much sit in our Queronams tent here today. He was a big promoter of the nightlife, and of the nighttime, and for sure also of the LGBTQI movement in Berlin. And he said, we're very poor, but we're very sexy. And we need, he said it exactly like this, and we need the night culture. This is our benefit. This is how we gain money. So he brought it as a first person on the point. He really like smashed it and said, end of discussion. We can't. We need this. We need the areas that are like having this heavy nightlife. And it's loud. Please, arrange yourself, live with it. This is just an example. I'm not saying that I'm in favor of it. That's a tricky thing, yeah? I also have actually insomnia and I have my problems with night sleep, so...
1/4 in Riga has issues with sleep unregardless to anything that happens outside. That's just what we found out in our research recently. So that's just...
Unforced, probably 1/4 of society.
1/4, at least once a month, has issues with sleep. I guess 1/4 of you also has that.
Yes, I have. You probably not.
Commenting your statement, I have so much to say, and probably I should...
Just do.
It's a lot.
No.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I will interrupt.
The first thing actually related to the youth culture, and because nightlife at first, like parties and events and everything, it's nothing new. Globally speaking, it's nothing new. It's basically 150 years old when the big cities started to launch the cultural revolutions and they became more enlightened. So we had cabaret cultures and all these things that changed the whole paradigm of culture. And of course, it was adapted first much faster by the youth because they had not that many responsibilities. And then after years, and then the decadent culture, 1920s, again the youth, and then in 1950s, the post-industrial culture. A lot of young people, they don't want to follow the paths of the parents. Of course, they again continue to develop their own youth cultures. And then something changed. Everybody started to associate the whole thing only with young people. Despite that older people also like to consume culture, older people also like to go to night markets, older people also work at night and they need traffic, and they need public transport. And then something changed in the 1970s because the TV came in. And what did older people do? They watched TV because it was very easy. It wasn't demanding a lot of energy, and all the TV shows came in, and disco came in, and the young people like disco. But this is where the stigma, or this is where the stereotype actually comes from. These things that happen with nightlife are not very old, and something that is not very old usually gets adapted by the youth first. But then in the 1990s, we go down to the policy that happened in your city and many other cities. In the 1990s, this was one of the biggest problems. Nightlife was looked upon as the savior because there was this another cultural revolution. It was cultural planning, so we're going to use old abandoned warehouses. We're going to make cultural
Social
events.
planning was before.
Social planning.
Sorry, guy, still a big mistake.
Sorry, yeah, of course. Anyway, you understand, it all came like a helpful thought, and it was a good thing. The only thing that made it all terrible was in the 1990s, the neoliberalism came in with three things. Neoliberalism in that way meant free market. So we open stuff, we do stuff, whatever we want to do, and 24-hour licenses and big corporations, and basically it was called like the McDonaldification of night. So everything was the same. The second thing was that even if city departments or city officers, they had different plans how to develop night culture, it was easier and cheaper just to boost rave parties and all that kind of things. And the third thing was alcohol consumption. That, again, was just the easiest way how to make things run. And then in early 2000s, everybody started to think, oh shit, we made a mistake. Because none of that is sustainable, none of that is actually meaning anything for society, and it's narrowing things down. So the thing you said, it was like a textbook. What happened in the 1990s? Everybody thought that this is going to be the answer. The worst thing is some people in nightlife industry still think it works, and that is the reason probably we have all the arguments with people that actually want to sleep, arguments with people who do not like being harassed or touched in nightclubs, particularly women or non-binary people. And then, of course, another thing that comes from the 1990s is blaming the victim, not, you are the guy who made the bad move, get out of here. No, usually, the other person leaves. So it all comes from there, and I think the problematic aspect is that still a lot of people still think it's how you roll in nightlife.
I think we should be careful with this. It comes all from there, but for sure, certainly, thanks for the explanations.
The sexual exploitation most likely comes probably 150 years ago from the cabaret aspect and everything.
15,000
Or maybe,
years.
maybe...
Let's maybe put that patriarchism a little bit in a different...
Yeah, sure. But I guess you got the idea that the things that we do does not always contribute to good things we need to do.
No, but that is for sure. That is for sure. I mean, let's be very honest. Not everything we are doing is always good. Okay. Nina, how does that sound for a real cultural producer like you? Because you are the DJ on a rave, or you are the DJ in a yard somewhere in a city, like maybe it's not a big rave, maybe it's not a big festival, maybe it's just like some happening, and maybe it does disturb.
Yeah, well, it's...
I think it's a very important point. I'm sorry, yeah.
Well, all these things that you mentioned, there is part of that, but I think also a lot of people try to change that at some point. It's not only about consumption of alcohol, and it's not so simple anymore. Maybe for somebody it is, but definitely for those people who are into this industry or part of this cultural happenings, is definitely something more. It's definitely about, as for me, I could say from my side, that's definitely also about evolving the scene in a best way. It's not about this consumption thing, but bringing something new, to get to know something new, to hear something new, also to bring some new information, to exchange people, not like exchange people, but exchange experiences, also creative works as well. So I think it's really important to look that kind of way, because, and I also think that in nowadays there are different ways how you can sponsor your events and what you can talk with whom you can talk to get your event going. If you don't have money, for example, you can ask, like, I don't know, you can still use like healthier ways how to produce events. But yeah, it's a quite a big topic, because yeah, it's I don't know, it's like sometimes you can't separate that, sometimes you can separate that. It also, yeah, depends on organizers as well. But I would say that people mostly are interested in something more than just consuming nightlife. Mm-hmm. They definitely want to connect. They want to evolve, yeah, in like in a really good way. And I think it's really necessary as well, because as we know, we have been like suppressed for some 20 years before, like in a history. So I think for us it's kind of starting to move, as you said before, like 25 years ago in Berlin was this conversation. Mm-hmm. So I think it's quite the time where we start to think differently about these things, and it's not so shallow anymore. It's not about only expenses and everything. I think we all want to evolve in in creative way, and yeah.
Thank you. I find it very, very important that you open up this difficulty also about. I mean, it's what I hear through is this complexity that stands behind all of this, and the complexity is probably that what on the one hand feels very much like a burden, and where we have this feeling like something is pressing us down, and it makes a lot of discussions and conflicts. But on the other hand, it also for sure shows and signalizes very much that we meanwhile also in Latvia and in many other places around have a plurality in society that opens up to that extent that we really have the discussions. We wouldn't have had such a discussion. I'm working in Latvia in urban development 23 years. I wouldn't have had this discussion even 5 years ago. Now it happens. And this is already the step forward. I mean, we have two days, this stage is dealing around those issues. There are Kinetic has been doing so many things all around that. And I believe in the involvement of Kaspers and the night school and what all happens with that, and all the projects that others like Martin has involved, I myself. So all of this shows that something is happening. And I think this is actually, if I feel that what you say, then that what is the promise where you said you are an optimist. And I think...
Yeah, I am, yeah. No, can I add that?
Please, yeah.
Also really, really happy to hear what Martin said about the nightmare, because that was something that I was talking and thinking about, I don't know, for 5 years already. I was like, why don't we have any of those? I don't know if you're planning to get one or no, but I really like the idea of the way of the thinking, because I think when it's it could solve a lot as well if it's but also in what way we are going, you know, how to deal with this, and what's the person, how to find the balance, in a good way.
Can you reflect, Jeanette?
Yes, I would like to also add maybe what is the nightlife, and where is it positioned within our culture also. And if we look at the definitions of culture and creative industries, nightlife is actually not there. And where is it? Is it performance art? Is it something else? And I think there is assumption that it's just about some partying and maybe consuming alcohol, but it's not like that, because it's really, these are creative products, and there are creative people who are producing that. So maybe I would like also to ask Uldis about this attitude maybe, or future prospects which are going to be. Is this question actually in agenda of Ministry of Culture? And what is the attitude towards nightlife as a cultural phenomenon?
Super good question. And Uldis, I just
it.
hope you're ready to step from the one leg to the other. You were talking private before. No, please change your leg.
I read this question, but I was 100% sure that somebody will ask me this.
Yep,
and I haven't a simple answer to that. So, well, we got a UNESCO definition of culture, and culture is essentially everything that people attach value to. So whether it includes, we had in Liepāja a couple of years ago a discussion whether food is part of the culture. Mm-hmm. Well, by definition, it's not. So the Ministry of Culture is certainly doing nothing for food industry, for restaurants and cafes. But then again, obviously, so when you go to another country, something you want to experience as authentic to this country is food, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to some degree, a lot of things are, there is kind of the true culture, which Ministry of Culture is dealing with, but then again, it's a much broader topic, and there are a lot of things on edges. And I know, Martin, you have an opinion on that.
Song and dance festival also happens in evenings and nights,
And your point being is
that also is an evening and night culture.
Well, opera sometimes also drags quite long into the night.
Oh yeah, I mean, really
But then again,
long.
going back to normal. So no, nightlife, night culture, well, whatever you call it, it's certainly not on the map on the Ministry of Culture. But then again, it's and this discussion already, I think, showed that it's certainly not just a cultural question. So it's a matter of economy. So it's whether it's a way of entrepreneurship we want to encourage or not. It's a matter of territorial planning. So what would we like as policymakers our cities look like? It's to some degree probably also a matter of health, certainly well-being. Well, we mentioned also, so I cannot skip health. Sorry,
Yes.
but I think the very central topic is the night culture as a part of well-being. So that's something we touched upon. Another discussion I took part this morning about the relationship between culture and health. Actually, and that's something that that was our conclusion that. Regardless of the policy you design. So we have a tendency, obviously, for a number of reasons, to pigeonhole policies. So this is cultural policy, this is health, this is well-being. It's absolutely wrong. So the policies should be designed, and I hope to live to this day when this finally happens, should be designed with a person in center. So if we go back to the point that take part in a nightlife is a human right, so then we can entangle it backwards. So what can we do to effect that this is, safe, acceptable, so on? So what are prerequisites? So what should Ministry of Culture to do to support, for example, electronic musicians? What should city planners to do with the planning? Loud areas, quiet areas,
Our
and so
job
on.
here, yeah.
So it's certainly not something that a single ministry, for example, Ministry of Culture, can do. We certainly see it as a part of our policy. So I hope that a couple of years ago we finally started to see rock musicians. So at some point, I hope that we also take electronic music aboard as well. But yeah, that's certainly beyond our remit, and then really requires kind of multifaceted policy, which is actually municipalities are much better at. I think, than the governmental level.
Bagat. Hold your horses.
Yeah.
Martin, hold your horses. Hold your horses. Thank you, Uldis, very much. Did you finish? Okay, good. The main question that I still have to understand seriously, rock culture had been now taken in consideration, but how do you define rock culture at that point? Because I just want to give you one example. I mean, Latvia, next to Estonia, has one of the most outstanding, still Soviet times already, outstanding punk culture. Really outstanding punk culture as a subculture and as an underground culture, and it's still alive. I mean, we just look on Kuldiga and all that. I mean, there's a lot. There's Depot and Riga and other things. So there is a culture there which is really old. It gets already a heritage character. So do we actually look on that also when we talk about rock, or do we only think about classic?
Gradually we are getting there. I think, first of all, thank you for mentioning the punk culture. That's something I've been proud to be part of. So yeah, and I think currently we have, funnily enough, two policies. So we have musical policy, and we have policy for creative industries where rock music, well, all kinds of music, popular music is located, which is wrong for a number of reasons, obviously. But I think it's I'm ashamed to say, but really a Soviet legacy. So that's something that's specific for all the post-Soviet countries. So when rock musicians had to pass some certain tests to actually to be allowed on stage, so it was kind of considered kind of subculture, which is not to be confused with the proper music. So we are unfortunately still, and that's not really so much to do with the policymakers as with the mindset of the sector itself. So academic musicians are kind of, no, we have nothing to do with those guys. So we cannot really enforce something on them. No, you're the same. So we have this endless discussion, what is the criteria to be considered a music professional, whether it's your degree, or experience, work experience, or it's your income. And definition is different in all countries. I know France, for example, you can be a creative person, properly creative person, considered when you earn, I don't know, 20,000 something euros from your creative work per year. Our creative person are saying, no, that's bullshit. That's I want to be recognized as a creative person, even if I paint my whole life, don't sell a single painting, but I still I'm a creator, and I don't have to be bothered with income. So there is, a lot of aspects to this, but we are finally kind of trying to get them around the table and to discuss that they are part of the same ecosystem.
That is what I'm so happy to hear.
Yeah,
this is the point, that we finally do it.
It takes time, and it takes a lot of, shifting and
then
mindset.
At one point, very soon, somebody like Lina is also considered as a real, cultural heritage of this country, and an asset to be, I don't know, transported by Latvian embassies. Hey, we have this great woman.
Currently we are seeing them, those guys, more as, economic sector. So they are something that, unlike academic musicians, most of them can actually earn some money and get some income and have some export potential, but I think we are slowly getting that also they are a cultural value.
Okay, it's just one segment. Now Martin really asked, so he is first, Janet.
I remember around 2 years ago we participated with all this it was 2 years ago. We had a discussion with Satori regarding the nighttime or night culture identity of Riga, because there was this moment where many places just simply closed down that had meant something to the identity of Riga, and Tiek was closing down, I Love You was closing down, Leningrad we're moving somewhere else. What else? Chomsky had already previously closed. KKC, they had some issues, so they were also closing for business, and now thankfully they are back. But at that time, the situation was pretty grim. And the discussion, and I had an article, and then also caused the discussion, and we had this debate with Satori, and the purpose of the debate was to actually ask a question: if there is a night culture identity in Riga, and if there is one, can we protect it so we don't lose it? Like, say, many countries, many cities still keep them intact. So, for example, pub culture in the UK, especially in England, and especially in London, they want to protect the pub culture. The same with cafes in Austria. The cafe culture is very strong, it is protected, it is promoted, and it is culture. It is something that very much defines the place. Berlin got their techno as UNESCO culture now, and it is, you can define that thing, that's one point. And the second point is, in Riga we need to define what night culture is to the city, what it means to the city, and if there are some particular characteristics that define multiple places, and we need to protect it with various means, whether that is a status, whether, of course, with some duties regarding, the places also need to do something for the status, but whether that's a status, whether that's a program, whether that's becoming part of a canon or anything, because I believe, like 10, 15 years ago, Riga was definitely defined by do-it-yourself culture places.
Yep.
Chomsky, Che, KKC, Piens, all of the post-industrial areas, they just, all the creative quarters, you could say these are, Riga was basically built on DIY for the last 15 years. Yep. And I don't want that to disappear, because I think it defines what, also, actually importantly, also night culture is in Riga. And we don't have a mechanism, we don't have a policy of doing that. And I'm not saying it's it is bad, but it's not too late to actually do that, at least start with Riga, because Riga is most likely the place that accumulates most of such places. But say Liepāja has a different culture, Cēsis has a different culture they could protect. Mala, just maybe, let's protect Mala, and that's it. But yes, this is actually, we can define, maybe rock is not a thing that defines today, but we can define other things. Liepāja, yeah, I don't really think so. I think Liepāja rocks is over.
Okay, this is personal.
That's what I think.
This is personal taste.
But anyway,
please.
despite that, like it or not, I think, is it real or not, or does Liepāja deserve it or not? They are trying to do something with, trying to brand themselves as still rock city, and maybe it is true, maybe it is not, but at least that sort of thing we could also learn from in Riga and define some things that very much define our city, and similarly to Berlin, actually try to get them into a higher level than just something that we have and then it disappears.
Poor and sexy, exactly. Jeanette. I'm sorry. That was the
It was not related, poor and sexy.
That was the only ever cultural strategic statement that came out of Berlin. We are poor and sexy. This is really all, but it was very helpful. Yeah, please.
Just I wanted to add about also, you said about sort of branding or identity of city and country. And I think we have one problem, that there is sort of high culture and low culture. And I think electronic music sometimes and nightlife scene is considered to be something low compared to, for example, Song and Dance Festival. But maybe it's our path to find these things which are niche. For example, Nina knows very well that one of the producers who is really exporting 99% of its products, and it's really legendary, working with world-class stars, is Erika Sins. And I would like to emphasize these small enthusiasts who are doing this thing, something very specific, which is maybe not considered to be something high or, how to say, mainstream. Also mainstream, and yeah, and I think this is actually our heritage. Something small, something interesting, something enthusiastic. And this also creates value, not only economically, but also as an image of country and city.
Thank you. And with this, I would like very much to open up. Like we have talked an hour, pretty much exactly. So if you have questions or comments, or you want to smash us or pamper. Yes, I see a hand.
Yes, about the attendance. I was thinking, is there any collected data, or does it help to have this kind of data of the nightlife attendance in Riga, Latvia, or other countries? Do they have them? Does it help to understand how valuable it is for the country?
Maybe I can answer briefly to both of your questions, no and yes. When we did the study, we spoke with both the bar association and restaurants, we spoke with many people that are involved in various aspects of even in nighttime, and they actually shared. It was actually breathtaking, but they shared that, we actually don't really collect any data. We open to everyone, and et cetera, and then I thought, after COVID, post-COVID Riga, you should actually, you need to know what you are marketing yourself to. You need to know who comes, at what time, what kind of age. It helps you to adapt and build a better service. And actually, that answers the second question. It really helps. It really helps knowing who comes, knowing what's happening statistically, so you can adapt. You can craft a better offer. You also understand what people like that you offer, what they don't. You can't really just intuitively thinking that this might work, or everyone comes to us. Alcohol, everyone loves that. and of course, I probably you're going to say the opposite, that some of you actually try to understand who comes to you, try to understand who's the consumer, so you tailor the offer. But there are many who don't, and I think it very much affects their performance. And we really suggest that, know your customer.
Uldis?
Data always helps, and well, at least in saying, politicians always say we need an evidence-based policy. So, and that's certainly true. That's where data always helps.
Evidence-based policy.
Yeah, and that's the harsh truth. It's bloody tricky to get those data, because we have for years discussed with Ministry of Economy which NATA codes should belong to creative industries. And they're always, really borderline. It's a
very important point you're mentioning.
Very borderline. So I don't know, cafe, which Mala, they're mentioning all the time.
Yeah.
So what NATA code should they use? So it's cultural code or entertainment or whatever it is, food, drinks, we don't know. So data helps, and if there is interest, we can certainly try to look into. So we have a cultural statistics system which goes beyond what the Central Statistics Service is asking for. But that's, of course, that requires some work from the industry itself. So you have to be willing to invest some time and energy to actually to submit those data, because if you have a feeling that it helps, we can figure it out.
But that actually, no, Martin, sorry, no. At that point, I would like very much to bring in you, Kaspers. Can you reflect on that, what Uldis just said and what colleagues were mentioning here in the audience? Can you reflect, do you think the industry, I hate the term industry, I'm sorry, culture is no industry, but can we reflect on that? Can we actually get our venues and the places to really sit down and think about, how do we collect the data if we so much need it for the evidence-based policy? Is there a chance?
I don't know, and I don't think so, because it's always request resources. It's usually human resources, which for grassroots venues, it's quite a lot of resources. They don't get financial money kind of flow the same as opera or museum or other big institution. So someone has to then count a lot of things, and that's why there is very weak data actually in between the industry, and I think everyone, most here knows that.
Yeah, I guess this is a very essential point that you are mentioning. Yeah.
But maybe I have a question actually.
Please bombard back.
It's for every culture, for any kind of industry, actually, there is an entry point for businesses, for culture, for academic musicians. It's somewhat education, it's somewhat cultural centers where you meet in Mauki and start singing choirs and everything. And how important is diversity in culture in Latvia or Riga? Because isn't it that nightlife, which anything starts from 6, actually is an entry point for very big part of the culture, where a lot of rock musicians first start to play their gigs, a lot of DJs play their first gigs, a lot of artists meet for the first time in an informal way to share their ideas. So as this nightlife is not an agenda, as you just mentioned, should it be?
Whom you are addressing the...
It's just about this importance of being in the state agenda. Because now also, Martin said that there is some strategy in development, but it's for the capital. But shouldn't it be also kind of a very close, tight relationship with the state? Because it could be important also processes, could be the
Daugavpils. Please.
I would add one thing also. At the Latvian Academy of Culture, there is this kultūras barometers research, and this is data. This is research what has been ordered by the Ministry of Culture. But maybe answering to Kaspar's question, this field is out of scope. The consumption is being researched, but there are more traditional cultures, some cultural centers, and again, this high culture. But maybe this would be a challenge or maybe a thing what to include in the next, when there will be another, this research, kultūras barometers, that maybe this part also could be included, nightlife.
It's there. Well, not necessarily nightlife, but certainly, everything from city fairs and rock concerts and everything. So it's in there as a one or other form of cultural consumption. So it's there. The nightlife, well, we can think about it if you can define how to call it. So the question is, it's a statistical. So it's a guys going around and asking people, so what kinds of things you did during last half of a year? So did you go to theater, library, blah, 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 blah. So do you think we should add the question, do you participated in nightlife or something like that?
Something like that the field could be included, that it's not only about these events, concerts and everything, but I think that definition should be added. And I think it's also the gray area with definitions, the same as with Nazi codes, because maybe we don't have the scope defined. But what I was saying, and I also would like to add what Kaspar said, that this thing should be defined, and it should be included in these also research and policy documents. And maybe this is the thing which is missing now.
But I think
it's not excluded. Yeah, the trick is, it's not specifically excluded, but it's not also, I think, explicitly mentioned. So that's an easy part. I think we are actually in the middle of preparing the next barometer. But going back to Kaspar's, it's a tricky question. So, I could probably go on for a long time about the specificities, how the policies are. One thing is designing policies, other is implementing, and implementing obviously is always the tricky part.
Yes.
Because it comes down to funding and how funding is distributed. It's crazy. I won't bore you with that. But anyway, if we want to have this discussion, we recently had this. Our previous minister was very keen on video games as a part of the culture, which also so far hadn't been defined as a part of the culture. Yep. But it's specific for Latvia. So, it's different in many countries. For example, Poland is huge on video games. So, and other countries also across Europe have specific video games policy, which is also, of course, Ministry of Culture and Ministry of Economy. So, our previous minister also wanted to have discussion, so what can we do for them? So that's always the question. Okay, absolutely, I'm not a politician. Well, I do what the minister says me to do. But if we want to have discussion, the first is question, what do you need? So what are the prerequisites? So whether it's education, tax breaks, something, so we have no idea. We frankly, sitting in the Ministry of Culture, we have no idea how you hate and rightly hate the word industry, but we have no idea how the industry works, how it works from inside, how it looks from inside. So what are the things you need to succeed? So what are the obstacles? So that's what we have to, and then we can have a discussion.
But that's exactly where I think all of this discussion that we have right now, thanks Kaspars, it very much leads back to that, Martin, what you are right now, or the last time already are working on, and what you are preparing, and where you did your math thesis about and everything. Like this focus on setting a first stone. Because, I mean, you in Ministry of Culture, clearly from your perspective say, okay, we're still missing, like, please explain us what we are talking about, yeah? But here is the first stone, this strategic development that the city of Riga is doing, besides also, like, very much Mr. Martin Engelis himself, simply to really, like, because he's passionate about it, to try to understand this.
More passion, more energy, more style.
But that's certainly something we discussed also in the first discussion today.
Sometimes it's very strange, yeah. Okay.
Things rarely do work, from top down. So I think it's pretty incredible to do that. A politician in Riga or a government thinks we should have a great nightlife. So what can we do to enable great nightlife? So, and then you start asking questions. So what the audience is, and then who will the players be? How do we actually to kickstart this thing? Great things happen mostly bottom up. So when there's Kaspers and other guys say, hey, we have a problem. So we have this to be solved. Can you help us? And when there is some critical point, the politicians also start to listen and say, it really does look like a problem. So maybe we can actually do something. So that's also my main advice. Just raise your voice and go to the Minister of Economy, Culture, whoever, and said we need this.
I think we could start with defining what underground culture is to Riga and Latvia, and then we can actually start protecting it or including it or measuring it in the barometer, because we had a discussion with Christians when we actually were talking about this, every single cool thing about the old masters of culture and art and everything in this country actually started as underground. Zeltenie Pasnieki was underground. Inokentijs Mārpuls was underground. Imants Kalniņš was underground. Wojciechs Wojska was underground. Still is. So many artists, in music, but also particularly in visual arts, it all started from this sort of counter reaction that is very strong in our country, but it's not very much celebrated. And Erika Synths started with underground, and I guess that is one thing we can kind of promote more and work around more, because also it is very much related to our discussions topic. Regarding the video games, I think we should quit focusing on video games, but we should focus on gamification, because also board games, and actually Latvia is doing much better with board games. And also Latvia is probably one of the last countries that still remembers a lot of these, field games that we played, Klasītes and all that kind of thing. It sounds silly, but it is, the gamification culture, it is something that maybe we should look into. And I totally agree, Poland is the country that can prove that their board game and video game culture is stronger than ours, but maybe we don't need to focus on one thing, but focus more like on a phenomena. But yeah, the underground culture, I think it's very strong, and all of us who have started in art world once, they also started in non-conformist art, and I remember particularly in early 2000s and late 2000s there were multiple exhibitions dedicated to those non-conformists in 60s and 70s and 80s, and then the visual artists, Hardijs Lediņš and everybody else, then the visual artists became like the corypheums of all the cool stuff that we have, and I guess we can really protect it, and we can make the Hardijs Lediņš song about Ķīnā, esmu bijis es, like a Latvian folk song now, and maybe that is...
Okay, that's an interesting...
But yeah, so I think that is something that I could suggest regarding evening and nighttime, underground culture, and define underground culture, and then also you could include do-it-yourself, you could include Mala, that also started like this underground do-it-yourself thing, and you can see that there are some similarities, though. Almost no one who is big in Latvia has started big. Maybe Carnival Youth started big, right? But even Prāta Vētra started big. They were playing in these funny, weird places in early 1990s and class events, and no one thought they're going to be big. And I guess this is a thing that very much unites, and if we can nurture this, yeah.
Believe me, I have somebody in the audience who had been part of that very much. So, but are there more questions, comments, feedbacks, aggressions, anger? Yes?
One small comment as a simple consumer sitting here in the audience and listening about the very bad 90s with a very bad alcohol and also bad behavior. One question, I get afraid that you want to put me in some box. I behave good
Yeah.
Very important for any person's mental health, actually, to have also this undefined, free, safe space. I can get crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Actually,
Believe
this
me,
is also
don't
very
discuss
historic.
with her about mental health. She is better in that.
This
than
is
we
also
are.
no, but actually, this is also an old practice that the night belonged to the unbehaveful people, and it is as old as the community. And I totally agree. And it's not about the 90s; it was much older thing. I totally agree, and there should be a space like that. However, I have two counter questions. One, why shouldn't you or why couldn't you behave badly during the day? I mean.
In her job, it's not possible. Believe me.
Yeah.
It's
But okay.
possible.
Yeah. Well, I can work badly, maybe. No, that's a funny thing. But if we talk seriously, then definitely I agree that night is definitely in many cultures and in places a space where you could let yourself loose, and which is true because there are not that many eyes focused on you, and the atmosphere and the conditions really give you a possibility to be a little bit, the nocturnal aspect gives you a possibility to be a little bit more loose. But there is this another important thing. Your freedom to behave badly affects someone else's freedom instead, and it usually affects it in a negative way. So we need to find a safe place, or we need to define safe rules where everyone can do so, because we all know that many things that happen when someone behaves badly at night usually ends up with nothing very positive. And it's very hard to regulate that because you can easily disappear in the night with your bad things. So it is a thing that a lot of people do, but is not very often regulated as it should be regulated. So your personal freedom does not affect someone else's freedom. And I guess I think, like I said in the beginning, every woman here or every non-binary person knows that very well when they've been offended or they've been touched by someone,
yes,
not in a good way in the last, say, 15, 20, 30, whatever years, and then you understand that your freedom is very much damaged by someone else's larger interest into freedom on behave less. But I'm for behaving badly during the day also. That is my...
Are you satisfied, Gunnar, with the answer? So,
Yeah. It's true.
I expected that. I guess that will follow me in the night now.
But that's why I said that also see in the nightlife, the topic of nightlife, very much part of the question of well-being. So it feels for me as a continuation to the discussion I had before, culture and health. So there we discussed, for example, the topic that it's extremely bad to close small local bibliotecas. Not because
I was waiting when you come to the libraries.
Yes, and not because people are losing the library services.
Yeah.
But because those are mostly elderly people, they have nothing else but library in their small village, and the main reason they go there, it's to socialize, have a human contact. And I see nightlife being very much the same thing in a different context, but still it's very much about being included, being appreciated, being valued, and then that's really doesn't matter whether you do it through library, opera, nightlife, it's the same thing.
Uldis, I was 2009 suggesting already that we are like in a community work concept. I mean, this is my basic background. I was suggesting to also here to the National Librarian Association use libraries and build them out as community centers. Because this is the hope for the villages, for the small places, and then culture can come out of that. So there is a lot of knowledge about that.
Maybe we can go back, actually. I still thinking about Janeta said about audience. I think that maybe we are missing an opportunity to have nightlife in libraries, in rural libraries, because elderly people...
So you can behave badly.
They are sleepless anyway.
Behave bad in the library in
libraries during night.
Hey guys, we are coming to obviously a fantastic situation.
Fun fact, according to actually normative acti, or the regulation of the country, you cannot make noise in the library also at night. There actually is. There's this noise regulation in the country that says in libraries and in schools you cannot supersede the noise levels of this and this, which is ridiculous. So it means if you want to have a night event in a library, technically it's illegal.
You said schools as well. I mean, Gunnar, if I remember, our kids had disco parties in the school in the night.
Yeah, of course.
In Latvia.
But if
rurality.
if there's a disco party that is too loud, according to the regulation, actually someone can find this little tiny thing that says if the noise is above, I guess, 45 or 50 decibel coming from a school at night, then you can be persecuted.
Okay.
So libraries are.
I would like to
change that.
I would like to. It's 4 minutes before 8. I had not the feeling that there are many more questions or comments or aggressions coming, so I would rather like, Nina, you had to say something, right?
Just wanted to add
I wanted to give you also the chance directly making maybe your last comment then, and you would start the round.
Okay. I just wanted to add about the libraries. Actually, there have been like dance events, and also in libraries, and also in Latvian National Library. So, yeah. But,
but maybe some closing comments from you.
Well, I think it's really interesting from today's conversation to get to know the consumer. I like that part. That maybe we need to like understand who is more that people who are really looking for the free expression of being in nightlife, but still there are so many questions to add. But I also like the option to go to with all the needs and everything. That there is an option to go to the minister, but it doesn't work like that. I don't think that I can go to minister and just ask, but definitely it's something to do together with the community. And I think there's a lot of questions that also needed to be talked together with the communities. As I mean, like venue owners and also artists. It's not just one person. It's a huge thing. And also really like the idea that we need to like have this heritage of niche things that we do in Latvia, because we're not a huge country, we're not a metropolitan. Maybe in some years there's a tendency that we can grow as well, because most of the people from metropolitans move outside, as Janeta told, and it's like, so I think there are also like good things that could come together, but we definitely need to understand which is the way where we need to go. But I really like the idea that maybe we're not this super trendy, like we need something specific that to concentrate on, and and I think that could be something maybe that gives also self-esteem for ourselves and like confidence more of what we are doing. Of course, it's if it's supported also by larger like a government and a city as well, and at the same time. I like when I see that mostly everybody is also educating upon the nightlife as well, since like 5 years or something. Most of the people start to think about how do I act when I consume something, how am I together with all the other people, and also to think of what you're doing and how you're behaving, and to create this safe space as well. So I think it's really, really important. So that's from my side.
Thank you.
I think it's now.
Thank you very much. Janeta, some closing remark?
Yes, I think I really like the idea about that maybe Latvia is really small, niche. Yes, we are freaks, maybe we are underdogs, and we should really celebrate it. Not to behave and think that we are larger than we are, but actually this is our heritage. All the nightlife, all the possibility to get laid, all the funny hobbies we have, and all the enthusiasm. I think it's our asset. And we don't have to be ashamed of it, and also to be also on table in Ministry of Culture, not only these big and high things, but really these underground, and I really like this underdog concept.
I totally appreciate what you say, same as you, because like both of these aspects very much are driving in that direction, what I try to like think about for many years. Uldis, closing remarks?
I think both me and Martin, we've talked a lot, so I'm just happy. It was unexpectedly pleasant, and I was surprised that I was actually able to contribute to this. So, yeah, good. And I think baby steps, so the main thing is just to you know, from both sides. And Latvia is a small country, it's really easy if you have rock musicians did that. So they built their association and said, we want to have a voice, we make an appointment with minister. In Latvia, it's easy. You probably won't be able to do it in Germany. So
there is no Ministry for Culture in
I know.
Germany. So please even don't try it.
So that's an extra difficulty.
Yes.
But yeah, I think
there are 16. If you want, you can get 16.
But certainly, I think that what I want you to be aware that there really isn't and shouldn't be such a, you know, this we and then you and us and some kind of positioning. So no, we're a small country. We are actually at the ministerial level. We are, if you have something to constructive to discuss with, if it's not just, you know, it's everything bad, so please help us. We are always open for discussion. So that's easier than people seem to think.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Oh, sorry. Thank you all very much, but I want to finalize with the remark from you. Uldis today really like once again reminded me my original profession, which is far more in direction of human rights work. Cultural attendance is a human right. And to make it possible for all and everybody, really all and everybody, how much ever we are like, I don't know, walking along with like, I don't know, real big problems and cricks, and we are like, I don't know, 105 and we hardly can move, we are still having the 100% right, 180% right to attend culture, and even more to attend electronic culture. Amen. And in the end, I want to thank very much Christians for inviting me, doing this, and Kinetic for sure. But in the same time also would like to really pay gratitude to all the work that I did in the last years together, but specifically once again in a tiny little project we carried out ourselves with Kaspers. And that's very important. But I think very last but not least, I want to mention somebody who's here in the audience and who has been very much also like trying in the very beginning to drive things a little bit forward. And that's Lima. Thank you very much, Lima, that you also joined. And from your position out of the city council in that situation, you have had really like, you gave us a little bit of starter also. That was very important. Thank you for that. So let's see that nighttime culture, life, whatever it is, the same as daytime and daylight and day culture. And a good rave usually lasts 48 hours or longer. So there is... No, not in Latvia, but I do know places in the world where that happens, so believe me. So I think it's something that we should all, also you all, like work upon. So have a beautiful evening in beautiful Cesis, and have a beautiful, maybe still big stage discussion now, which is going to start somehow, or has, I don't know when they are starting. And... was a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you.